Victims were given cash payments if they could bring other underage girls to be similarly abused. And that's how he continued to expand the number of new victims.
Jeffrey Epstein was never just a man. He was a weapon, a scalpel forged in the back rooms of Wall Street, sharpened by billionaires, and wielded by men who wear power like a second skin. These scratched-out faces, they're not just politicians, they're architects. Architects of a system where abuse is collateral and silence is profit. But every weapon leaves residue. Every cut leaves a scar. And these bleeding ink stains, they're the residue of a conspiracy rotting from the inside out. July 6th, 2019. A single typo, Epstein, ripped open the veil. One misplaced letter exposed flight logs, names, and a network of exploitation spanning continents. But here's what they'll never admit. That typo wasn't a mistake. It was a trapdoor, a flaw in the system's armor. Because for 20 years, victims screamed into voids. Lawyers filed motions into black holes. Until this coffee-stained, sleep-deprived paralegal's error became the chisel that cracked the dam. But who built the dam? Who funneled the screams into silence? And why did the DOJ respond by setting the floodgates on fire? Every cover-up has its Achilles heel. For Epstein, it was an email. Fix the spelling, delay the lawsuit. But fix what? A typo or a narrative? Notice how the pixels warp around Epstein's face. Digital scar tissue, a glitch in the matrix. Because this isn't just an email, it's a confession. A confession that the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. Designed to protect, to obfuscate, to dissolve accountability into static. But static has patterns, and patterns it can be decoded. 1982. A college dropout with no degree, no pedigree, walks into Bear Stearns. Within months, he's managing fortunes, not because he understood markets, but because he understood people, their weaknesses, their shames, their darkest hungers. Epstein's real clients weren't investors. They were vampires, men who feasted on power and needed someone to drain the blood so they didn't get caught with fangs. And Epstein, he wasn't just their butcher. He was their banker, trading secrets like stocks, building portfolios of shame. And when the market crashed, he became the too-big-to-fail institution they all depended on. Blackmail is an art, and Epstein was its Picasso. These tapes, labeled VIPs with years like chapters in a horror novel, weren't just evidence. They were currency. A shadow economy where a senator's perversion could be traded for a judge's favor. A CEO's crime swapped for a prosecutor's blindness. But look at the flames. Someone's burning the ledger. Someone's trying to collapse the market. But ash has memory. Smoke carries truth. And in the embers, names, dates, proof. Proof that the real crime wasn't the abuse. It was the system that licensed it. Maria was 14 when she boarded this jet, promised modeling gigs in Paris. Instead, she was handed a schoolgirl uniform and a script. Make him happy. But him wasn't Epstein. Him was a rotating cast of ghosts. Men in suits who never gave their names. Men who left fingerprints but no traces. Maria survived, but survival isn't living. It's carrying the weight of a truth the world refuses to hear. That this jet, this Lolita Express, wasn't a vehicle. It was a conveyor belt, feeding fresh trauma into the machine. And the machine, it's still running. 26 flights for Clinton, 7 for Trump, 11 for Prince Andrew. Numbers tell stories. And this story isn't about association, it's about complicity. Because you don't fly to an island of horrors 26 times as a tourist. You go as a customer, a patron, a shareholder in the economy of suffering. But here's the real question. Why redact some names and not others? Is it randomness or strategy? A way to sacrifice pawns while protecting kings? Because in this game, the board is rigged, the rules are written in invisible ink. And the players? They're counting on you to think the game is over. It's not. Ghislaine Maxwell didn't recruit girls. She harvested them. With a smile sharper than a guillotine and promises sweeter than cyanide, she weaponized aspiration. Don't you want to be rich? Wasn't a question. It was a trap. A bear trap disguised as a life raft. Because in Epstein's world, rich meant caged. Rich meant your voice became their ventriloquist's dummy. And Maxwell? She wasn't just the puppet master, she was the curator, collecting vulnerabilities like art, exhibiting them to the highest bidder. And when the gallery closed, she burned the catalog. Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine's father, media titan, Israeli spy, and suicide found floating in the Atlantic in 1991. Coincidence or curriculum? Because Epstein didn't just inherit Maxwell's fortune, he inherited her legacy, a legacy of using information as a wrecking ball, of turning journalism into Judas holes, and of dying, conveniently. But in the spy world, suicide is rarely self-inflicted. It's a message Epstein learned well, a message he used until it was used on him. 2 tons of evidence, hard drives, passports, CDs labeled VIP 01 to 50. But when the FBI stormed Epstein's mansion, they didn't lose the evidence. They relocated it to Langley, to MI6, to vaults buried so deep, not even sunlight dares trespass. Because Epstein's tapes weren't just dirt, they were insurance policies. And the premium? Silence. The deductible? A few sacrificial girls. But insurance expires, policies lapse, and when they do, the truth has a way of resurrecting. Code Black. A phrase that doesn't exist in any official handbook, a directive that leaves no fingerprints. Translation: erase it, bury it, and if it breathes, kill it. But who whispers Code Black into the ears of the powerful? A nameless bureaucrat, a shadow agency, or something far older, a cabal that predates Epstein, Maxwell, even the CIA. Because power doesn't die, it rebrands. And in the age of Epstein, it rebranded as impunity. Epstein's files aren't confined to FBI vaults. Mossad has them. MI6 has them. The FSB has them. Not because they care about justice, but because they care about leverage. Because Epstein wasn't a rogue actor. He was a proxy, a cutout, a deniable asset in a global game of compromat chess. And when the board got too hot, they sacrificed the pawn. But pawns have diaries. Pawns have receipts. And the queens and kings, they're starting to sweat. A U.S. senator visited Epstein's island 3 times. His name? Redacted. His face? Blurred. But his victims remember the eagle tattoo on his wrist, a symbol of freedom perverted into a brand of ownership. Because this isn't just ink. It's a receipt stamped with the blood of children, a receipt that says I was here, I partook, I consumed. But receipts can be cashed, and the debt? It's coming due. Why is he still in power? Because power isn't just about what you do, it's about what you normalize. The DOJ redacted his name. The media avoids his photo. The public forgets his face. But the eagle tattoo pulses, a metronome of guilt. Because in this story, the monsters aren't under the bed. They're at the podium. They're drafting laws. They're judging us. And their greatest trick, making us believe we're the ones on trial. August 10th, 2019. Epstein dies. The guards, asleep. The cameras, glitching. The timestamp, skipping 2 hours like a scratched record. Coincidence or a performance? Because this isn't a suicide, it's a spectacle. A theater of the absurd staged to send a message. The truth is ours to edit, ours to delete, ours to rewrite. But there's a flaw in every script, a plot hole in every lie. And Epstein's script, it's riddled with both. 12 suicides since 2008. Lawyers, pilots, witnesses, journalists. Each name crossed off this list isn't a tragedy. It's a footnote in a ledger of silence. Because in Epstein's world, death isn't an end. It's a business expense, a line item in the budget of corruption. But ledgers balance, accounts settle, and the interest on this debt, it's compounding. But someone's balancing the books. This USB drive, stamped island tapes, holds Epstein's darkest ledger entries. The whistleblower who leaked it, gone, vanished into the digital ether. But the files remain, because the truth isn't a flame you can extinguish. It's a forest fire, and all it takes is one spark, one typo, one voice, to ignite it. What's on the tapes? Screams, laughter, and names. Names that anchor news cycles. Names that grace charity galas. Names that sit in pews on Sundays. Because Epstein's clients weren't demons. They were us, the neighbor, the coach, the leader. The lie we tell ourselves that evil is a monster crumbles here. Because the real horror isn't the monster under the bed, it's the monster making the bed. 254 victims, 1,000 flights, 99% of files missing. But the question isn't, what did Epstein do? It's, what did he unleash? A virus that rewires power into predation, that turns justice into a punchline, that convinces the world some lives are fungible, but viruses mutate, they adapt. And this one, it's evolving, spreading, infecting new hosts. So ask yourself, when the next outbreak hits, who's patient zero? Phase 2 isn't coming. It's here, in boardrooms, in courtrooms, in the quiet clicks of a keyboard erasing history. But deletion is an illusion, a magician's trick. Because every keystroke leaves a shadow. Every shadow forms a pattern. And patterns, they're the cracks where truth grows. So let them delete, let them redact, let them burn. The roots are already deep. The truth is already alive. They buried the files, they burned the tapes, they silenced the witnesses. But here's what they forgot. Secrets are seeds, and seeds buried in shallow graves always sprout. So let them dig deeper, let them pour concrete, let them pretend, because the truth isn't a ghost, it's a harvest, and the reaping has already begun.